Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Hopefully the mic is sounding good. Last minute preparations. Hide my phone so you don't see my text messages. And I think we are good to go live. We're live. Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Please let me know in the chat if you can hear me. If the mic sounds well. I didn't change anything in the setup in terms of audio, so hopefully things still sound about the same as last stream. Made a couple stream improvements. We've got a new camera angle with this guy. Nope, with this guy. So it's blinking a little bit, which isn't good. It's a very old camera. But I added it just so we can get kind of a forward angle and I can kind of get some close-up shots without having to kind of switch things around. Of course, we've got this angle is another main angle, and the overhead, and then my face, which hopefully you won't have to look at for very long or too long. But yeah, trying to make some improvements to the stream. Let's see, I've got some stream notes. First of all, I'm wearing my Check Out My Abs shirt. This is a shirt by Amy Double D. I talked to her to see if she wanted to bring this back because a lot of people asked me about it the last time I wore it on stream. So yeah, I'll let her know. If you want this shirt, please tell me and I'll pass it on that she needs to make them available again. What other notes do I have? Oh, I've hooked up the active track again. So now if I walk around a little bit, this camera should keep me in tracking. I don't move around all that much, and I have it on the slowest setting, so hopefully it's not too crazy or busy, but hopefully also adds a little bit of, you know, production quality to the stream. I've got some links to products in the kind of description area to the stream. So yeah, I've got links to this West 3D tensioner. They have links available on YouTube now. So I obviously picked this up from West 3D, so go check that out if you've been looking for a tensioner. Hopefully they have some in stock. I got a new pen or mechanical pencil. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a big fan of Adam Savage. That's a whole bunch of Adam Savage work back there, or artwork, and his album, his record. I went and saw him on tour. Yeah, he had a video where he was talking about mechanical pencils, and Pentel sent him a whole bunch of mechanical pencils, and I saw this one, decided to pick it up. So that's an example of a company reaching out to an influencer, that influencer sharing the product with their audience, and then their audience, you know, clicking through and doing that. So there's a link to that one as well. This is a Graph Gear 1000. Pretty nice mechanical pencil, and it has like this cool little feature where the end of it actually retracts, which is kind of cool. Let's see. So it's got, you ever had your lead break or this gets stuck in your, you know, your pocket or something like that, you press back on this and it hides that pointy edge. So it's kind of like a ballpoint pen action, but it's a mechanical pencil. So I don't know, I thought that was cool and worth sharing. So how are you guys doing? Let's see who's in chat. Switch it back to my ugly face cam. Got Renovic. Paintball NY, it sounds good. Good to know. Going DH. You like that side view. Okay, cool. I'll try to switch to that a whole bunch. But today we're going to continue with the build right where we left off. I got the XY motion system mostly done except for the belts. Haven't done much. I did go ahead and kind of de-rack the XY gantry a little bit, so hopefully you guys can see that it's looking pretty good in terms of its squareness. So basically all I did was, while these were still a little bit loose, I kind of moved it forward, saw where there was maybe a little bit of gap on one of these sides, kind of flexed it back and forth a little bit, went to the back, did the same kind of check, and just went back and forth a little bit by a little bit, tightening until everything kind of lines up nice and square. So really good smooth motion there, and I'm pretty happy with that. So we will continue on with the build process. I believe we will be starting with the belts. The Graph Gear 1000 looks nice. I've been using a Roto Ring 600, which has a retractable tip as well. So I have a group chat with a couple friends, and a bunch of us were engineers, and a lot of people picked up on those. Is it Rot Ring or Rote Ring 600? But a lot of people have those, and I've got a couple nice Zebra mechanical pencils I used during college because they were just generally kind of nice. And yeah, trying out this Pentel, so I like it so far. It's not too weighty. Yeah, Linus Tech Tips has that. What do they call it? The lever? No, it's not a lever action. It's a bolt action pin. I kind of want to pick up one of those because they look cool, and they're reusing the mechanical or the screwdriver shafts for that. But I've got a little graphing paper notebook that I used to use for engineering, for doing sketching, like top down, isometric views and stuff like that. And my pencils, my mechanical pencils are attached to that, and it's in some box upstairs. So just pick this up so I can just jot down stuff and keep ideas going. So yeah, thanks for everybody who's joining in. Definitely sound off in chat, say hi to each other, and we will get started with the build, I guess kind of nowish. So if I bring up the desktop, I've got their video open kind of to the point where we're at, because every once in a while I kind of need to refer back to that when they don't have any written instructions. Really, in their written instructions on GitHub, they just say refer to the video most of the time. And then I've also got the manual, and we are like pretty far along now, more than halfway through the build, I would think. We do need to finish one step here, and that is putting on these two rails. Yep, so we need B extrusions. That might be all that we have left, to be honest, because it's just the Tophat extrusions, and I think all of those are the same. Or no, the Tophat have blind holes, don't they? On some point? Or do they? No, the side pieces of the Tophat have blind holes. Let's switch that off. So B extrusions, I believe, just have the threaded holes on each side, and they will go into here. Hopefully they fit pretty well. I did have a little bit of over extrusion on some of these parts, I've noticed. I tend to err on the side of over extrusion a tiny bit. Ideally, they sit nice and flush. I don't think, oh, one of these do need preloaded nuts. Almost missed that. Don't let me miss any nuts. This is one place where having the no drop nuts are kind of nice. I need to turn on recording on both of these guys, prosperity's sake. And I just sent this camera into playback by accident. That's not what I wanted. Horde. Parkour. There we go. We are recording. So definitely let me know what kind of projects you guys have going on. I know Renovik is constantly in the process of planning or working on a couple different builds, reusing a lot of Enders. Were you talking about an Ender 5 rebuild? I know somebody just put out a video about 48 volt Ender 5. It's not a channel I'm super familiar with, but it's popped up in my feeds several times. Hey, Bill. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for popping in. Pretty good headway, yeah. And 3 streams, really. The unboxing stream was stream number 1, and this will be number 4. will have gotten the majority of the printer build. So every V0 I've built has gone a little bit faster, which is good to say. I wish I could start from a blank slate and just be able to kind of build them without any knowledge to kind of give people, I feel like this is a common first kind of custom build for a lot of people. It's a good entry point, with the price point being, you know, sometimes usually below $500 depending on the kit. It's a good way to get into the Voron ecosystem and just the kind of general custom printer setup. So I think if I don't slot it in all the way, I can minimize that angle and it'll go in better. Yeah, there we go. So don't drop our nuts. And what I was finding is if I try to slot one side in all the way like this, and then try to put this in, the angle's too great for it to slide down evenly. So you kind of just want to minimize that angle a little bit and slide in. We've got our 3 nuts over here and 3 nuts on that side. Yeah, I bought an Ender 5 Plus for my friend. Brent Ferguson, evening from Texas, Tejas. I commented a bunch on his previous builds. Oh, it's Tommy Houghton? Houghton? I don't know how to say his last name. I commented on a bunch of his previous builds. His videos are really nice to watch. I'll have to check them out. I'm trying to get the Ender 5 to work before modifying it. Currently it has a CB1, some other upgrades, but the CB1 won't connect to Wi-Fi. People do have issues connecting it to Wi-Fi. If you set it up with the Wi-Fi kind of supplicant file or that text file, if you can get it wired, hardwired, you can go in and then use some commands to manually connect to Wi-Fi. I've definitely helped a couple people in the Voron V0 forum, or the Voron V0 channel in Discord, on the Voron Discord channel, do that. So if you search for my name in the V0 questions, there's a couple examples of like how to scan for Wi-Fi. Sometimes something in the setup when it's like expanding the files during the first build of the CB1, I think, and it's supposed to connect over to that supplicant file. Sometimes that doesn't like happen right. Bill, I'm building a Trident at the moment and helping Brent Ferguson with his. Nice. I love the community that we've got. I see all of you guys in different folks' stream. Really happy to have you guys in this stream as well. So we need a couple screws for these, and then we can put the, let me put the mini, no, not that desktop. Desktop small, there we go. I'll put that so you guys have a reference of what I'm looking at. We need M3x10s, button heads, 4 of them, I assume, or is it different from the back? Well. Before you try to move a printer by a member, you should probably secure it first. Those hex screws will be found by my foot at some point. Or my RoboVac. Just a little shrapnel for the RoboVac to pick up. Hopefully that was at least entertaining for you folks. But from the front, we need our M3 by 10mm screws. I have to block everything with my head. Yeah. When I started to tighten that down and actually started to twist the extrusion a little bit, torque it. That's focus hunting a lot, which is a little annoying. Nothing like a little explosion of extrusions and hex nuts to get your adrenaline going. Okay, so now we can do the, that's interesting that that's torqued down, pulling that out of true. It's a little worrying. Maybe this is a little too tight. No, loosening it doesn't help all that much. I mean, a little bit. I glued a couple magnets to the front of my Roomba. It saved me a fortune not having to replace the screws I've lost on the floor. That's a good hot tip. Okay. We need to do these guys. So these are the lazy cams is what they're referred to. Hopefully this doesn't make you guys sick. Camera like this. So these front idle or kind of parts have a special slot in the side of them. So they go a certain way. You slide them in like normal. And then if you tilt it up, there's a little part where you can put this flap in. This goes a certain way. Does it go like that? Yeah. So on the side here, I can show you on the other one, it's just got like a little recess right there. And you can slide this member into that. And then you can easily lock and unlock your cams without having to use a tool. So it's a toolless cam mod. I've done it on my LDO, and I want to redo my my FormBot kit with it as well. I fulfilled my commitment to Nergolrot and installed RepRap firmware on Mellow CDY V3. Probably would use the BTT Octopus on the Trident though. Saw you put lazy cams on a previous build, and I've since put them on my V0s. Highly recommend it. Yeah, I don't use the cams on my FormBot build because they're just kind of a pain in the butt to kind of do. I have to go get a tool, either the Voron tool or what is it, like a 4 or 5 millimeter hex key. So I don't know. I just find these a whole lot more better. And that's backwards. Man, this focus is like a little bit too fast. Maybe you need to turn it down a little bit. This is one thing I think would be a good consideration for kind of bringing into the stock build. I don't think Nemera, is that how you say his name? The V0 developer is a huge fan of them, but it's interesting when mods become so almost ubiquitous that they're kind of a basic part of like every person's build. Like Kirigami is pretty ubiquitous. Gave up on the cams. Agreed. Yeah, maybe if they should, Maple Leaf Makers has the Voron database. They should do something where you can like look at all the most common mods, and then they can do a little bit of an audit of that and say, okay, maybe this is some stuff that we should bring into the kind of stock build. And this lens doesn't have a constant aperture in all of its zoom range, so it gets darker when I zoom in. The Tophat is pretty stable without the cams. I think I lock the cams when I do input shaper, and that's about the only time, to be honest. Let's put it for the top down. And then what do we use in the back? M3x10s as well. So I have all 4 of my cameras, which are a combination of DSLRs and mirrorless. They all go into a switcher, but it doesn't do ISO recording. So I've got one that records the whole stream in the switcher, and then this one side cam, I have a recorder on it, so it records itself. I don't know, do you guys think that that's concerning at all? That maybe there's something slightly out of skew about this. Maybe these surfaces aren't flat. Once I screw it in, it's gonna be fine, but ideally those would kind of line up better without me having to torque them down. I really want to build a Trident, and it's so bad. I have the parts printed for an Ender wire, and I have a disassembled Ender 3. But I don't have like a huge amount of motivation to kind of start on it. It'll be a cool build. I'll enjoy it. I'll use it as like a PLA printing machine, but yeah, it's interesting. It's lost the shine on me a little bit. I really want to kind of build a Trident yet. Mine were like that, only on one rail. Kind of strange, but makes me feel a little bit better. So pretty happy with the motion on all axes. There's no kind of wobble from the Z. When we hooked it up, I kind of left these loose and kind of ran it up and down, and then tightened that on the ends, and then tighten that down. So no binding on the Z or on any X's. I started with an Ender wire and ended up just converting it to a full switch wire. Nice. That would probably be a better way to go. If I recall correctly, Cyborg have an Ender wire kit now, not a switch wire kit. So we're moving on to the AB belts. Cal Latin. Is the V0.2 the best first Voron to build? I hear the Trident is actually easier for what it's worth. I am not new to 3D printers, just Voron. It's approachable. It has a lot of finicky parts. There's a lot of preloading nuts. This is 1515 extrusion, and it doesn't have any kind of roll-in nuts you can use, like a larger V0 that uses 2020 extrusion. So when you're assembling the frame, it gets assembled in a way that you can't put any nuts in afterwards unless you do something like literally screw a notch into it so that you can drop in the nuts. So you have to preload a whole lot of nuts. There's a lot of kind of finicky parts where you're kind of forced to do stuff like use a ball end to kind of get it places. The motion system is about as basic as it can get. A single cantilever bed, the standard kind of Voron tensioning or belt path with kind of unique tensioners. Well, I guess these are kind of like the Trident tensioners. So it's a good first Voron to build. I would probably start with a Trident personally. If I were to do all of this over again, the price point is the main thing that I think makes this very attractive for people to kind of first get on it. The fact that you can get one of these for like as low as $300 on a really, really good Black Friday sale from AliExpress. A Trident, I feel like you're probably gonna be in for at least $600 to $700. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. I have an old Prusa for the rare PLA prints. Yeah, I've got an MK3S that I need to put an MMU3 on. Low Sync, hello. Yeah, definitely feel free to chime in with your opinions on Trident versus V0.2. I think a Trident is easier. It's got its, I don't want to say finicky, unique parts like getting used to the 3 lead screw, motors is probably a little bit of a unique thing to get used to, but it's not a difficult build, I wouldn't say. Yeah, same with the price of the V0.2 kits of the real draw for me over the Trident. Trident is easiest. Salad fork is nice if you aren't space restricted. Sure, a salad fork is a kind of V0ized Trident, essentially. Kind of. It's a Trident with 15-15 extrusions with like a 160 or 180 bed, I think. We are moving on to the belts. I'm probably going to do somewhat of a Steve method for doing the belts. We need to get our carriage. I think there is a special carriage for this guy. You can't use the stock V0 carriage. I think there's something special because they have an entirely special tool head for this, or at least the shroud part. So I have two of these printed out, and I think they're both the same. Maybe the carriage is exactly the same, and I'm lying. I've got, this is an extra carriage I printed out for the LDO build, and I ended up using a CNC carriage from Fabrico. And this is the one I printed out for this build, and they look pretty much identical. But I thought that this was in a special parts repo, but maybe not. Trident is more forgiving. The V0 is easier than a 2.4. Definitely think, well, I haven't built a 2.4, but from my experience watching other people's streams, eventually you'll end up with all the models anyway, or you'll end up with 3 V0s like me before you move on to another one. Can't have just one. Most finicky Voron to build and tune is a 350 2.4. I can imagine. Like, a lot of people seem to really like bigger printers, but there's kind of a give and take with that. So we need our heat set press. I've been using the TS101 primarily for this, and it's working out pretty well. Getting used to it. It doesn't heat up quite as fast as my 110 volt powered one from, who is it? Hacko, but still pretty nice. See, can I adjust this by just moving it down? Zooming out. There is a little built-in support piece that we need to pop off, and I don't know where my flathead is. I've got that KB3D flathead that they send in their orders, and I have like 3 of them, and I don't know where it is. I'd probably build like a 250 Trident, honestly. I don't have a ton of space. So when I do get around to building a Trident or 2.4, it'll probably be a 250. And then if I can clear out some space in my garage. We need some threaded inserts. How much flex does the CNC bed have compared to the Kirigami bed frames? 0. It is a big honking chunk of metal. If you go back and watch my unboxing stream, I torque on it a little bit. It's kind of hard to do inside of here, but there's absolutely 0 flex to this thing. Comparing it to a Kirigami, this is superior in terms of rigidity, I'd say. Our threaded inserts go in on the back, and then we need to also drop in some nuts. So on my FormBot build, I originally used this carriage and it ended up cracking. I'd say if there's a part besides the cams that I don't like on the V0, it's this guy, because I've seen a lot of people who've had this carriage crack on them. I need to actually turn this up a little bit. I need to set my default to like 300 instead of 260. Been trying not to press down too hard. Listening to Renovate and letting the tool do the work. but it does tend to slip a little bit. Just have to let some heat get into the heat set. Need 2 drop-in nuts. And I'll have to align those with something in a second. That should be basically ready. I just ordered one. My Kirigami is like a diving board. The Kirigami is better in terms of assembly, I feel like, because normally, you know, you have these 3 extrusions that you have to put together with a couple printed parts, and that can be hard to align from what I've seen. And not all that rigid. The Kirigami is a step up, and I think this is probably the best solution if it's like affordable. I haven't heard of anybody having problems with the CNC bed from Fysetc. What's the next step? Press these in a little bit more. So I want to get an upgrade for this lens so that it is constant in terms of its aperture, no matter the zoom, because at certain distances, focal lengths, it kind of dims a little bit. We need our weird little nuts. So I've got a drawer that is miscellaneous nuts in the ModBot hardware organizer. We've got our 2 little flange nuts. I don't know if that's the right term. No, flange nut is something else. And we need flathead M3x8, which are not super common in this build. You recall this being a little bit finicky. Everything's so small in the V0. If you have big, clumsy fingers like me, it can be a little bit of a problem. Is this a 1.5? So we need to get this nut started, but leave enough room for the belts to come through. No, it's a 2. The 1.5. No? What is this? 2 doesn't seem to fit in. Oh, maybe the back of this screws it. No, you just have to come in at a better angle. It's got to get good. So I've just gotten those started, so there's plenty of room to hopefully pass the belts through. I used the original extrusions from my V0 to make a phone stand. It works pretty well. That's kind of cool. You should share those files if you have them. I understand that problem really well. Big sausage fingers here and bad eyesight. My eyesight's okay. I have trouble going from close-up stuff to far-away stuff now as I get older. But I can still see pretty far once my eyes have time to adjust. I hate the Kirigami bed. I swapped out my V0s to a Fysetc brick or spec 100 extrusions, much better time. and well worth those. I have heard some people with a Kirigami say that their Z offset can get a little out of whack. Some people think that that's just a common problem with the V0, but don't tighten yet. I know how to measure M8 screws from the ends, and they say to start with equal length belts, but we're gonna run our belts like Steve does. So, switch to our overhead, bring this in view. Put some unused tools away. What kind of builders and tinkers are you guys? Are you a put the tool back as soon as you're done with it every single time type builder? Or are you a kind of leave everything out until it's a little out of hand and then readjust? Asking for a friend. So I usually start from one of the AB motors in terms of the belt and then run from there to the two different sets of idlers. I don't know why, but that just is the way that makes sense in my head. Everything everywhere. Yeah. You just have to have 4 of every single tool, right? So that way when you lose one, you can just pick up another. I throw everything in the tool bag and then dig for whatever tool I need, like I'm trying to find keys in it first. Hey, FYSETC Puma. So, I don't know, this is just the way that makes sense to run the belts for me. So what Steve typically does is do one belt path. Am I doing this right? Yeah, this one will go straight through to the carriage on this side, right? And figure out what length he needs, and then he matches the belt length, and I find that works out pretty well for me, assuming you have plenty of belts. So I think that's right. We're on the idlers everywhere we need to be. Cross things over to make it a little bit longer than it needs to be, and then cut. I use IKEA 2-liter buckets for my project pieces. Just a big old bucket of parts and project and components. So I should be able to cut this belt right here, then cut the second half of the length to that exact same length, and rerun both of the belts. What do you guys think of that method versus how Voron says to do it? Voron says to cut them exactly in half, and then you kind of have to make sure that they're the same length once you get them put through the carriage, which is a little bit harder in my opinion. So that should be plenty of excess belt to kind of play with. I'm gonna take it out. That should be a little bit more than half. Actually, it's almost like exactly half. I use Steve's way. That was actually almost exactly half. Interestingly enough. So that leaves me worried if I did it too long, it wouldn't be quite enough belt on one side. Do that one more again. Measure twice, cut once. So when I started my first Voron build, I'd say belting and tensioning was a worry for me. Preparing the linear rails was a little bit of a kind of nerve-wracking thing to do the first time. What else? I mean, it shouldn't be much more than that. Am I around all the correct idlers? I believe so. That's a little bit less than half. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm gonna go a little bit past that and cut it. And then we'll match them up and run it. Then we want to match these up so that one tooth is longer on one side. Run it down, keeping the teeth meshed, and then cut the longer belt to the length of the shorter belt. I actually have a primary use tool drawer I put out and keep all those tools in place, snips, nose and stuff like that. If you've ever watched Adam Savage, he has a he has a first order retrievability concept for his shop and his tools, where all the kind of commonly used stuff he tries to have basically in arm's reach, or at least like he can walk across the room and grab it. Like he has a concept of tools, or drawers are where tools go to die. It's kind of like an out of sight, out of mind type concept, where when you can't see a tool, you'll often forget to use it and end up finding like a non-specialty tool to do whatever the job is. He of course has a big shop in Chicago where he can kind of do that type of thing, but whereas other people like everything put away. And they have a very clean aesthetic. I know, I do find it like a nice clean workspace calming. Sometimes I can't focus if everything's a little too chaotic. San Francisco, what did I say? He is in San Francisco. You use Adam's model? What is Adam's model? And what is your belt method? So now I've got these belts both the same length. So I tried setting up the CB1 with Ubuntu so I can check network configuration instead of seeing Clipper screen. I couldn't get an IP address with the Ethernet port or Wi-Fi. That sounds like an issue. Assuming your like router is set up in DHCP mode, it should auto assign an IP to it with an Ethernet, and then, although I've been using a Pi V1 and not a CB1. They're the same image, but the Pi V1 has like integrated Ethernet, so there could be an issue there. But it worked with a USB adapter, which is really weird. So okay, now that you're in the USB, with the USB, you can't get it to allocate an IP or acquire an IP address. The Reverend, I calculate the length of the belt, then count the teeth. You don't count every single individual tooth on there, do you? That would take a little while, I would think. All right, so I'm gonna run the belts kind of my way and then mate them up. I guess the important thing is that you need them to be the same length in order to tune them by pitch or tension and have them be correct. If they're not the same length and you tune them by like sound frequency, that's not a good method. This is my third time belting a V0 and I'm still a bit apprehensive about it. Like I just saw how short that was and got a little nervous because I thought I had to go around the front again, and it's like, ah. So this is the bottom belt on the right. You guys see me do something wrong, let me know. That through. Get a few more teeth through, hopefully. And tension it down a bit. Now we'll do the top belt. It's essentially the opposite. And I don't know, I just like doing it this way more than oh well, I could do both of these now that I think about it. The second belt's always harder to get in and through. So I'm gonna put some excess through on the opposite side so I can pull it out of the way. Pull more than I need to through here so I can move it off to the side so the other one has a little bit of space to go through. I feel like this is the most frustrating belt carriage system of all the V0s. We're just gonna remove this one and poke it through without that thing there, without that nut there, because it's just almost impossible to get otherwise. This is just what people mean by like the V0 is finicky, I feel like. I feel like the Trident in 2.4, getting the belts hooked up to the carriage isn't this difficult. Hopefully that'll stay on there, and we can do the same thing with the second belt. Which CB1 version, the newest one, Ethernet adapter was able to get an IP address and SSH into it. I've tried to put Ubuntu on mine, so I can't recommend much. I have not. Gotcha. All right, so let's run the rest of this belt. So go through here, stick him through. Now we will try to get this flathead screw screwed into this little bar nut with both belts poked through. That wasn't that bad. But I probably should have done the other one first, because now I'm going to have to take it off. Yes. Do the same side. Dope. So to get this belt through this right angle, I usually wrap it around the spacer and it's able to fold around. And then I pop it up onto the idler. And it seems to work really well for me. I know some people have problems with it not getting around to that idler, but I like that method. So under this guy, you guys can see something. Fastening is a pain on most tool heads. Okay, so it's not incredibly specific to the V0. And maybe the move is just doing one side without the nuts on it, and then doing what I did afterwards, which is probably kind of how they recommend doing it. That's gonna fall. Having a little bit of excess belt, sticking both belt sides through. But don't cross the belts. Top belt. Get in your home. All right, felt it come through on the other side. I'm gonna get like 2 teeth through. So I can pull. And then now we'll just try to get the nuts attached the way I did before. Be sure to loosen your idlers as much as possible. It will give you more room at the head to work. Oh, loosen these front idlers? Or these idlers, yes. So tightened is that way, and loosened is outside, right? I think I have them as loose as they can go. Hey Dom, welcome to the stream. Yeah, I think this is the method I like the most. Just stick all the belts through and then put the spacer on or the nut on, and this is a little bit. Yeah, get on there. I think it's threading now. Yeah, there we go. So what I would think is that since I know these are the same size and I'm gonna end up cutting one of these flush anyway, is I'm gonna back this side out until there's 1 tooth through. You guys see that? And then I will do the same with this one on this side. Both these belts are the same length. Now I will tighten this down. I'm gonna keep that nut aligned. I found when this nut isn't aligned, it can kind of prevent the other belt from pulling through. So now if we pull these two to the same length, then the same number of teeth, and they should be the same length. Always good to make your belt even, yes. And once we get them relatively tensioned up, you can make sure the path is along the idlers correctly. Front idler, this is not. I need a little bit of belt back. This side one, I did not get it up onto that idler. Pull it taut again. What did I do wrong? Oh, and the bottom one is the same. It is not on the idler. So this side looks good. We go around the front idler, right angle into the carriage. This one goes a right angle around that side. If we are on The idlers everywhere, I believe. How's that look to you guys? So the belts aren't even yet, but the belt path looks right. What filament is that? It looks good. It is the Pop Green ASA or ABS. I think it's ASA from Polymaker. I might have links in the description. Let me know if they're in there, and if they're not, I can add them to like a comment or something. My goofy method is to put both belts on one side of the tool head out of the machine, then feed the belts to the other side, loading the bottom belt first, then the top one. So you put both of them on this side, feed the whole belt path around to the other side, and then come through. So kind of like what I ended up doing in the end, where I have it like even on this side, but then you just feed the whole thing around and come through. So with this right, can I now attach? Attach this guy? Or should I leave it hanging? 2x6 socket head. The baby screws, which are 1.5, right? That's how I've done it too. I feel like I can just secure this to the rail now. And then everything will be kind of stabilized, and I can pull the belts to even. And then the next step might be to tension them. Yep, the real answer is to do what works for you. Exactly. Sometimes the same process just makes sense to different people in slightly different ways. It's actually pretty interesting. Always try to do a X pattern. Don't know if it's necessary or helpful. I'm looking to make sure all the idlers are moving and running well. Not rubbing up against anything odd. Trying to see if there's any diagonaliness to any of the belt runs. Tell if maybe the idlers aren't spaced correctly. I think it looks pretty good. Now I want to make sure these belts are the same length. So we're going to tension these next, right? So I have these at the outermost, the motors are at their outermost level. So when I twist them in, that will tension them, right? Because we're pulling the motor this way. So right now, before I do any actual tensioning, I've always kind of like struggled with in my head. And then we've got this guy. Pretty cool tool. I like it. Piece of piano wire. Put it through there. Wait, how do you set this up? This is to, that should be a 1.9, right? Which way is tightening and which way is loosening? That was loosening. Use this piano wire to calibrate. If you guys notice me doing anything wrong, let me know. I just got this. I've only used it to kind of tune a set of belts once. That's hitting 1.9. Oh. Hitting like 1.85. I think that's pretty good. Piano wire is the calibration tool. So now I know that that's tension to 1.9, and I can use it to see where these belts are at. They are nowhere near that loose. So should I tension the belts first without tensioning here? Or is that going to end up over tensioning? Because I can pull these tighter here while we still have these fully recessed or fully outwards. Do you know what am I making sense? Hey Tor, welcome to the stream. That side is completely secure. There's one tooth sticking out on each of these. This side is not quite, well, it's one tooth uneven. Now it looks like the other belt is longer. These belts are pretty even now. So the belts are under tensioned at the moment, is what I'm asking. They are not at 1.9. And I can get more tension in them just by pulling this side of the belt, you know, a couple more, or I can start to use the nuts to tension it down. So do I want to get it like closer with just pulling the belts through? So do like 1, 1. To tighten it down a little bit more. We are back, switching from mobile to PC. I'm basically just saying I can get tension by pulling these tooth by tooth. Or I can get tension by I'm just going to secure it, because if I don't, that's our fine to tune. That's over tension now. You guys see that pretty clearly, yeah. I need to back them out like a tooth or two. I guess it's better to have them slightly under tensioned and then tension them with the tensioners. Still the same length. It's just like minor order of operation stuff I'm worrying about. You'll need to pull the belt if you run out of green nut range. Okay. All right, so now we're under tensioned. This is secure, and we'll use the nuts to tension. So wrong driver. Keep checking that the belts are equal length. And which one is the bottom? This one. Go to the halfway. Just see where that puts us. No, we want the top belt, which is this one. It would make sense that these correspond to the different sides. Respective sides. That's way over tensioned. And I should probably tighten them down when I test, right? Be calibrated to 2.1 and not 1.8. The thing they give you is a 1.9, right? So we calibrated the tool to 1.9, the piano wire, which is reading fairly consistently. And are you saying that the belt should be not 1.9 but 2.1 when tensioned? Mine says 1.92. That's 2. I've always done the kind of sound method, so. You tight? Well, that's close. Is there anything you do in between kind of tensioning? Manual says to calibrate 2.1. Doesn't take a lot. In my head, I should move the belts around a little bit in between adjustments. This tiny scotch. That's 2.1, right? One problem I've had is that sometimes when I dial it in and then tighten things down, it'll actually change the tension somewhat. Like, yeah, I just tightened down these 4 screws and it changed the tension like kind of a crazy amount. So I need to under tension it. Does that happen to anybody else? It read 2.1. And then I tightened down the 4 screws and it went up to 2.5. Am I doing something wrong? I loosen them a bit. Move the gantry around. Okay. So it says 2.1 before I tighten. The nut's not even like. And I haven't tensioned this belt yet either. Tighten it down. I'm trying to just tighten straight down the middle in a cross pattern. Definitely feel the lopsidedness and the tension. And it's a little bit tighter that time. It's getting like 2.2, 2.3. Kind of manually knock it back a little bit. So I'm going to shift on tightening. It maybe take a couple tries. Gotcha. But it's like a less than a millimeter of movement ends up causing a lot of difference. It's almost like I need this to be under. Can one belt impact a little back and forth might happen. Maybe this one is too tight. Maybe I should go, yeah, back and forth between them. I see what you're saying. Be a little under and then tighten them down. Is it okay? Excuse me. You think it works well to tension while you have the belt meter on there? So if I wanted to get this to like 1.9, interesting seeing what it does as I move the belts around. 1.9 before tensioning it. Can you just leave it on there? It's at 1.9. This will be at 1.9. And then when I tighten it down, maybe it'll go to, oh, it's not at 1.9. Probably making this more complicated than it needs to be, but I just tighten the screw on the motors to keep it kind of in place, then do the other belt. Get it pretty close. The actual number is not important, it's it being balanced. That is very true. And I can run some of the clip pane stuff and get some readings from that as well. It's coming out as 1.9. That is coming out as 1.9. Hopefully you guys can actually see that. Then hopefully when I tighten both down, it will still be the same. That's a very good point to make. Sometimes we can get into the minutia of trying to be very, very exacting, and whether or not that is of benefit. Is another question. Like I recall a lot of people talking about how flat they were able to get their milled bed, but then you end up sticking a magnet and a PEI sheet on top of it, and it's, you know, does that 0.0005 finish on the bed end up making all that much of a difference after you've slapped 3 layers of stuff onto it? It's actually still reading 1.9. I thought it would have gone up. That's kind of funny. Every other time I tighten it, it went up, probably because I wasn't doing both the belts at the same time. We can tune those in better later. I'm going to leave this on for a little while longer until we're right about to put the tool head on. Printed bed. I think we can take the printer off for a little while. And I've got this box of printed bed parts. I think we're going to need just about all of these. Correct. And some alcohol to clean the bed. And so the first step they list we don't have to do, because in my miscellaneous nut drawer, we have 3 knurled thumb screws, so we don't have to do that step. Orientation of the bed. Front screws in the front. Magnetic sheets on top. Put the bed heater on. Okay. It's a little blown out there. Burnt isopropyl is IPA amongst people that don't use it. Often always makes them think you're cleaning with things. Very, yeah. It's funny how many anagrams, is that the right term? Not anagram. Well, why can't I think of the term for using letters to represent words? What is that word? But how many common ones there are in different fields? Acronym. There we go. Why did anonyms come in my head? Anagrams. There's probably a better way to get this off. There is actually a seam, but sometimes just going Hulk on it is kind of nice. Yeah, I think I've just, you end up saying isopropyl alcohol so much, or typing it, that having an acronym is helpful. Context clues matter, right? I've got a microfiber. Bed feels pretty nice. I really love that we've got these little mounts for being able to have bed alignment. I think that's a feature that should be on pretty much every modern printer moving forward. On both of my current V0s, getting the bed aligned can be a little finicky sometimes when you're trying to like change out plates when the bed is still hot. Of course, I ended up touching it. You have a lot of latency at the moment. We have 0 drop frames. Stream health is, says my bit rate is high, but I don't want to turn that down. Stream health says excellent. So the bottom is going to be the side without the countersunk holes. So you can apply the magnetic sheet first. So their magnetic or their PEI sheet's actually a little oversized in this dimension so that they can have these grooves on them, which I think is just great. I don't know if anybody else thinks that's as big of a deal as I do, but I really like it. So I'm gonna peel down about 1 inch, fold it over. It's just about the perfect size. Jogging it into place. Probably not perfect alignment. That IPA just dried the crap out of my hands. Can you cut bed magnets fairly easily? The kind of problem with that, did I do that on the wrong side? Did I just do that on the wrong side? It is getting late. Hoping to get all the way through the toolhead today, but got a little wrapped up in minutia. That's unideal. Brenovik's question actually is what kind of made me realize I made that mistake. So we're gonna do, usually I just put the screw heads through and then tighten them from the backside and don't worry about it. But I was going to cut the magnet holes this time. It's kind of hard to mess it up when you already have the screws placed through. So ideally you don't do this. Don't make this mistake. The countersunk holes were on the side, the opposite side of where I put it down. After I spent like time trying to make sure it was the right direction, I messed it up. That's frustrating. I don't seem to have stretched out the magnet at all, so I think it'll be mostly okay. So now the countersunk holes are on the opposite side. Yeah, I flustered myself. Okay, so somewhere I have an X-Acto knife. And I want to make an indentation so I know where, about where the holes are. Hey, Project in Dad's Garage. A countersink works nicely. I do have this guy. So that could be a really good tip. I was gonna poke a hole. Get it started with the X-Acto. You're saying this will actually cut it fairly well? So I didn't show that well in that first one. Try a couple different methods. So this is an X-Acto knife. This is what I've seen Steve and other people do. And if you notice, when I cut this apart, it doesn't kind of turn to dust like some bed magnets I've cut before do. The countersink does do a good job at kind of defining the hole for you. Coming in with an X-Acto knife to clean it up. But you're kind of cutting up a magnetic material that ends up sticking to anything ferrous or magnetic itself. Not the cleanest holes, but the like little bits want to stick to anything magnetic or ferrous. Bill's tip is pretty good. A countersink bit will help out a fair bit. There are some places where I chunked it a little bit and it is kind of breaking into multiple pieces. But this countersink hole or countersink bit will be really good for kind of making sure we don't have any proud bits. Disrupting the flatness of our bed. I would guess. Looks okay-ish. I'm going to re-clean this side now that I've touched it ever so much. Go this way. Do I have another sticky note? Same general technique for this guy. I'm not going to break out the ruler to make sure it's perfectly square and centered, but it doesn't cover the whole sheet anyway, or the whole bed. We need to make sure we have enough room for the thermal fuse, right? Where does the thermal fuse go on this? It goes in one of the little offset screw holes. How much room do I need to leave? Not much. I'm not gonna break out the briar this time. I've got a roller briar thing. What size screw did he use for that? Probably the standard, whatever's in the manual. Does it say in the manual what size screw to use? Probably not a 10 millimeter, maybe an 8. Welcome, Projects and Dad's Garage, if I didn't say before. Turn this way. You orient it like so. Kind of sticks off the back this way. It's just different. Oh, you need a screw long enough to act as the bed alignment. All the little bits are getting stuck back to the magnet. Did it say in the instructions? Three by 8 on the second side. M3 by 14. Which is not a typical size, so somewhere there's a 14 millimeter screw. There's a specific bag of hardware for the bed, and I'm assuming that this is 14 millimeters. About 15 or 16 on that one. All these the same length. This 14 millimeters isn't a standard Voron screw size. Oh, there's a bag that's 3 by 14. I don't think Vorons typically use three by 14s in their designs. That's something very specific to this build. It'll go through the back of the bed and act as a alignment pin on the other side. They give you 2 of them. And then a 3 by 8 on the other side. This is the frustration Steve has with the videos, like it doesn't have the hardware on the whole step. You have to like go to the specific spot in the video to see. It's just a little bit more time consuming than if there was just a manual, or if in the video the whole step had the hardware used listed. Definitely a spot where they could possibly improve things a bit. 3x8 is not long enough. Did I use 3x6? And 3x8 is not long enough to get above the height of this guy. I mean, this is a mixed 6mm bed plus like a millimeter for the I would think a 10. Where are my 10s? Like a M3x8 wasn't standing proud of the bed sheet, the magnetic sheet. That seems better. Where's the seam? There we go. Feeling a craft single. So, when you're putting the bed on, you can easily slide it onto those pegs and drop it. And it is aligned just about perfect. Every single time. Repeatability, I love it. These row beds are so cute. Project in Dash Garage. I'm starting a Doom Cube Micron build themed after Frieza from DBZ. You should do a Micron since you seem to love small printers. Maybe I can do a different villain from DBZ. Although I said I was going to do a Bucky's theme build eventually for who was I talking with? Was it Brent? We were talking about all the Bucky's in Texas. I just tried a Wham Bam dual-sided smooth, Prusa sputtered, Prusa smooth, and normal Fabrico black holds down hard. Oh, are you talking about on your magnetic sheet or your magnetic bed? Oh no, this is a Voron Gantry mod. Oh, okay. I do know that we need to hook the thermal fuse up to the bed heater, which they provide a connector, which is kind of nice that they give you an inline connector. So it requires one less Wago. It looks like a almost Molex style. Is it keyed? Yes. That's an interesting connection. I like a bullet. Is that how you would describe that? Do you need to heat shrink it? So that's gonna be a little dangly boy there. All right, we need our M3x40. Their bed is so different. I'm gonna look at their instructions. M3x40 and then M3 nut. Oh, are these the 8? These are where you use these washers. Somewhere there's a bag of M3x1 shims, and I couldn't figure out what in the world they were for. No, are those nuts? That bag said by 5, right? Which are our typical shims. I still don't know what these M3 by 8 by 1s are for. There's a bag for these, and they don't fit anywhere else. This just says to use the shims, so we'll use the shims. And our M3 by 40 button head, we need 3 of them. Need to remove a little bit more material there. I'm doing it off the camera so that the pieces don't end up sticking to anything because they're adhesive on one side and magnetic. So they just want to stick to everything. The hole just wasn't quite big enough for a button head to pass through, so I took a little bit more material off. Then we need our shims and nuts. I had to use my sticky finger technique to get one of these out. Or is that the wrong order? It is the nuts, then the shims. I love it when you get a good spin. Where are my needle nose? Put the shimmering on after you tighten down those things. A pair of pliers. Workspace is getting a little messy. So Dad's Garage, are you gonna do that that Micron mod? Or the Doom Cube mod? Renovic showed you like some kind of a modded gantry, right? I get a slight bit daunted by how many mods come out every single, I don't know, it feels like week for Vorons and custom printers. There's like the Armchair Engineer, Chirpy, Orbiter, all producing really good stuff. All the printers for Ants. It's like I can't keep up. Yeah, Doom Cube, not sure about the Gantry. Gotcha. And I think we need to clean some of this stuff up so we can get the printer back up on here. Almost tripped over the printer there. Crash. Extra hardware, extra belt. Probably don't need these 3x40s. Rather, I stay in the know. I stay rather in the know, and yet there's always like 5 projects I've never heard of every other week. I know that some beds don't use high temp magnets, which is a problem. They lose their magnet. Yeah, the curie rating on a magnet is really important. And the adhesive. Some don't use the right adhesives and they're not all that heat resistant. There's a specific type of 3M adhesive that's supposed to be good for heated applications, and I've heard that some bed manufacturers don't use that. Going by the video, they put the 3 shims on, then they bring the printer back up, and we are going to drop those in there. It's kind of nice to have a recess to kind of hold light back on. The springs. I hadn't even noticed that. I hope this will make aligning and putting the bed in actually fairly easy and straightforward. Have to make sure that the washers don't come out. I actually think it might be easier to just stick these on here. Turn the whole printer sideways. Going from the side so we're not fighting gravity. Like looking at him doing this in the video, it looks like he's having a whole lot more problems than I am. He hadn't put the magnet on yet, which is interesting. So I remember Feder having an issue with using these M3x40s, and then when he lowered the bed, I think maybe the 30s or the 40s crashed into the bed before it hit the end stop. Or was that Steve? I feel like somebody had that issue. Let's see. No, we got plenty of space. I don't know if you guys can see way back there, but there's a good 4 to 5 millimeters. So even if we tighten the bed down, we're on the end stop and the 40 millimeter screws aren't too long. Let's hop back to the manual. To attach the bed chain. Did he pull one off? Is that what he did? Hey, BBs. BBs 3D. So many E's. Really, this can only go in one way. I'm going to look at the alignment and see if it's necessary to take a link out. Although it feels like it's going to be hard to pass all the cables through. Okay, no, I jumped the gun there. That's the filament runout sensor. There's the motor wire, which we don't need right now. Here is our what cables do we need? Okay, HB. And HB. And there should be a thermistor wire as well. Like a little slide. The ferrule side goes on the Wagos, and the fork side goes on the motherboard side, I would assume, right? Like a snack. I should just do this with it off. I was trying to be slick, but probably actually easier to pass the ferrule side through. Is this your third V0 catching up? I have 4 serialized. This is my third. So if maybe I can get my hands on the Cyborg kit, I might be able to tie you. Try it the other way. Pass the ferrule through. I probably should do this as all just one bundled thing, right? And like tape it together. This is a bit finicky. The V0 cable change you can't open up. We need this, and we need the thermistor bed. Let's stick them all together. Grab a piece of electrical tape. I just noticed I haven't used that fourth camera yet. I was kind of thinking of like test prints. Being able to have a nice close-up would be the use case. Will that fit through this way, or do I need to like offset these? I'm actually going to depin the JST. And it's just thin enough. Is this the best way to do it? Probably not. There's a way to do it. I do have a special part for this that I got from Steve. Which helps with some strain relief on this bottom side. That's all the wires we need, right? Heated bed and thermistor. There's no RGB stuff on this. Actually, most of the slack needs to be up here. Well, maybe not most. Snap on there, please. Yeah, V0 heats fast, prints fast, and handles most printer parts. Very true. I've printed 2 V0s on V0s now. But also just like general rapid prototyping. I did that upside down. I'm terrible at this. I have the ferrule side going towards the motherboard, and it needs to go towards the Wago connectors. Wouldn't be one of my builds if I didn't have to undo 75 things though. Finding it a little bit difficult to work with these cable chains. They're just not very bendy. Okay. We go again. How many printers do you have currently, Renovic, like in working condition? Because I know you're always either planning a build or working on modifying a printer. Sounds like you're always getting new printers from friends. So this will come out of here. These will come out of here and actually go down through the hole. Let's do that now. But we still need to see if we need to disconnect one of these cable chains. They kind of made it seem like it was optional. I guess the test would be, can the bed move all the way up without hitting the gantry up top? And it seems like it can. So I don't get why all the chains that seem to come in these kits have this floppy edge. So there is a printed part for this that I have to find that has just like a little nub here that prevents it from falling over. Hey, the Shrimp Father, welcome. Am I the only one who's bothered by this? Might replace it later. But yeah, the test is just making sure that this can run all the way up to the top and not run into the gantry. So it doesn't hit this back piece and it doesn't hit the gantry. So it seems fine without removing the extra piece. Oh, this wire is semi-pinched. It bothers me the more you play with it. That's what she said? I just know that they have cables that have, or cable chains that have that little nub there that prevents it from flopping over. I don't know if like in a lot of cable chain applications, if that's not like a issue because maybe they lay flat and don't go vertical or something, but. So how do these cables run? I assume out of here into this little channel, down under the bed, and into the Wago connectors and the PCB. This might be a little hard to get a good angle of. But we need these wires from the bed to pass down through the little guide hole. It's not showing up at all. There's a little channel here to help the wires come down. We've got one from the thermal fuse, one from the actual bed. Thermistor. Hopefully a JST can pass through with all these other wires in. Might have been smarter to do the JST first. I'm gonna have to depin this JST. Wonder if they go over this in the video. JST. Bed wire 1, bed wire 2. Oh, they're getting curled around each other. God. Let me make sure he does that. Oh, he's got some sleeving he puts on. There are two pieces of sleeving. Are they the same length? One is shorter. I need Steve's little sleeving guide print that he's got. Has anybody been watching Smurf coverage? I saw somebody in Steve's Discord noted that they were looking for like videos on it and hadn't seen much videos or live streams. Kind of comes down out of this, then through here, so. I guess it's nice to give you some cable management stuff. Not sure how necessary it is. Probably add a little bit of a twist to this to help it kind of stay. Need one thermistor wire going in the one side, the other going into the other. I need to repin this. Thermistor polarity does not matter. Do you guys see in there at all? Closer one, the cable chain. This one's a little bit longer, so we'll do it on the bed. We've got 0 drop frames today. I am kind of excited about that. It's so tight in here. I've basically tied these 2 leads into a half knot right as they're passing through this. Okay, as soon as I said something about there being 0 drop frames, seems like this froze. Yes, I do seem to be frozen. My streaming device is disconnected. Can you guys still hear me? can hear, but all of my video is gone. What happened? What happened? As soon as I bragged about there being no dropped frames, I had to restart my computer in the middle of the live stream, pretty much. My computer's struggling a little bit. IT heard me, yeah. Demo gods. What's a boogery way for stuff to... See if I can turn off some things. Let's see if I can restart OBS. I will be right back. We're back. Okay, so in true IT fashion, I just had to turn some stuff off and on again. Let's go back to this camera and try to get you guys an angle back inside of there without disrupting the stream. My intentions were to pass all the wires through this little wire pass-through in such a way that they kind of lead straight to the Wagos. How's the stream for you guys? Hopefully 5x5-ish. So from the bed, we need one to go into one Wago and one to go into the other. It's tight down there. Looks good, good here. Thank you guys for staying with me. Maybe I shouldn't have gone through this pass through with those because they end up being a little too short. Just an odd angle. So you don't need ferrules for a Wago, but from what I've heard, they don't hurt. Nice solid connection there. Solid connection there. And then it doesn't really matter which of our two wires here go into which. Adam Savage in a recent video actually unboxed or was talking about how he started using Wagos. And I feel like they have had a little bit of a uptick in usage in projects and stuff. So that's everything connected. We've got black wire to one bed lead, red wire to one red lead. Everything passes, pull test, both thermistor wires. We just have this excess bit of wire right here, which we should be able to pass under the bed and out of the way. How's that look to you guys? Red to white, black to white, thermistor, and I think that's it. And I think that would be the end of the bed, except for maybe adding some bit of strain relief here. So where are my zip ties? I mean, that is pretty clean. It looks like there's a hole right here. You zip tie this guy down. Now that I think about it, I could have put the thermistor wire through there too. And I also want to put something here. And that printed piece I mentioned for the non-floppy cable chain, it actually has a little slot for a zip tie, which is pretty nice. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Zip it up and zip it out. I don't know where that came from. See if I can pull any slack back. And then on the bottom side, Steve has a tiny little print that I printed out and have to find. So you can find this in Steve's GitHub in his like little Voron V0 folder. But it is a little tiny printed piece that you put there, and then you can get some strain relief on the bottom with another zip tie, which I liked when I saw him do his build, so I'm going to copy. We just need like a 3x anything. So you guys are having some pretty good discussions there in the chat. Where is my 2mm driver? I already pulled the zip tie out. I probably did. But yeah, I thought that was a cool little print from Steve. The strain relief on a V0 chain isn't all that important. It's just the Z. It doesn't move back and forth. You know, the most it moves in a print is like homing, but it is a nice peace of mind, especially if the wires aren't necessarily the right type. So you want to pull it taut, push it to the edge, and then in the curve of the wire, or in the curve of the chain, ideally, it's neither on the inside or the outside. Push it taut, pull it a little bit, and voila. I think we move on to the toolhead now. Let's clean up. I found my needle nose. They were next to where I put them, where they belong. I'm gonna pop the bed onto the bed sheet onto the bed. This is excess for now. Still don't see what I did with my driver. I designed my own enclosure. Have a 2.2 kilowatt water cooled spindle. Going to be a mod bus. It's like printers, it's got nice mods. Oh, you're talking about CNC. Matter Hackers has the LDO Milo. I've got a little SainSmart, what is it, like 3018, I think, that I picked up to start doing a little bit of stuff with. To just dip my toes, you know, use like easel, learn how to do a little bit of engraving and cutting wood. And then I'd like to go to something heavier duty to be able to do some metal. So, gonna break out some stuff that I know we need. Our hot ends, our parts. Let's see, hot end mount, extruder motor, mid body, LED. I minded the gap. All right. Heat press, activate. This is a new addition I put on there. I found that print on Thingiverse, and it just holds the CNC Kitchen standard set of heat press things. I honestly probably will never switch it off the M3. So what is your thoughts for CNC? Kind of learn how to get into it with a less expensive machine, like a lot of people do 3D printing, or kind of buy once, cry once. Just get it over with and buy kind of a really super nice machine. We can start placing our threaded inserts. So this is a custom shroud in the Fysetc build. It's got like slots for their LEDs. So we're gonna have to probably go by their video a little bit more than normal. One, two, three there. Where is our guidler? Where is that printed part? How much of my streams are looking for printed parts? I do a decent job of organizing stuff. Like this is all supposed to be panel parts, but there's always like one or two parts I put in kind of the wrong spot. They're always the tiniest of parts. I think this has some green and other color stuff in here. Yeah, more printer parts. So I've got some of these hot end parts in multiple colors. Even though you don't really see it much, I kind of like the idea of them being in multiple colors because I'm weird. So are these mid plates exactly the same? So I was thinking Are these compatible? Oh, there's a mid plate, isn't there? No. CNC machines come in all different flavors, depends on what you want to make. Tiny machines are not very useful other than engraving your circuit boards. Yeah, my thought was just like, figure out if I'm interested in them and how much use I'd get out of it, and if I like the process with like one of the tiny Chinese ones. Oh, it goes on that way. So I was thinking a slightly different color for the mid body, and that color for the rear plate. That's how that goes. Let's just get the basic part set up first. Gantry style CNC routers are 2.5D and do great on wood and non-ferrous metals. Gotcha. As opposed to like a mill style, like the Milo is. Why do you slide it out so much? I'm not putting that much pressure on you. It's not quite flush. Definitely noticed the mini stealth burners, one place where making sure the threaded inserts are flush is super important. And do we have spacers or are they printed parts? The cores on a mills get expensive quickly. Anything capable of milling steel will set you back quite a bit, 5K and up. Tooling and accessories become significant costs in metal tooling. Have you gotten into any tool changing for CNC machines? That seems like a not so common thing, but a kind of cool thing that would get quite expensive. There's a, is it Stepcraft or Shopcraft? They have like orange and grayish machines. It's a commercial CNC or consumer CNC that has a tool changing module. They've got a lot of really popular Instagram videos. figure the top-down view for doing this stuff isn't quite as good of a viewing experience. I feel like we're in somewhat of a renaissance of tool changing printers in the 3D printing world. A couple decent mill projects. Milo, Rat Rig, Voron has a mill project. All of these are probably going to be $2,000 to $3,000 US. I know the Milo basic kit from LDO is on sale for like $9.99 at a couple places right now. Like Matter Hackers has it, and they have free shipping. An M2x6 flathead. Hey Pavel, welcome to the stream. Close to finishing building my FormBot V0.2 kit. Many thanks for your build series. You're welcome. I've seen that they've actually updated that kit a fair amount. I've tried to update the GitHub, but like it comes with a hot-end similar to this now from what I've seen, as opposed to the CHC V6 that it had when I first built it. Is that too close? Tool changers push you into the 10K range. Tool changer spindle starts at like $1,800 from China. Real tool changer spindle start at 5K. Very expensive. You need to start this into here. The idler spacer. So there's some interesting differences between this and the FormBot kit. I still use my FormBot printer like almost every day. In fact, I'm going to be putting Dragon Burner on it soon. I've kind of already mocked that up. Just remember that you still have to buy bits, a vise, measuring tools. The LDO kits come with a little bit of that, but you'll need some more stuff, definitely. It seems like it's a pretty deep hobby to get into versus 3D printing, where you can kind of just buy a 3D printer and get started pretty easily. It doesn't seem to be quite that straightforward with CNC. We need our BMG internals now. So a difference between this kit and most others, it comes with this all metal gear in place of the BMG standard gear. So it's kind of like the Ridga. Something just fell. The spacer just fell off. Could have been bad. This lens doesn't have a macro, but it's all metal. It should have good concentricity because it's integrated. We need our... How much longer are you going to stream for? I'm going to try to get as far into the Toolhead as I can. Ridga, yeah. But all metal Ridga, which is kind of cool and different. Where is my grease? I didn't put the cap on the EP2. So this is very, very unique. We're probably going to need to follow their video for it. Get our inserts, all these spots. Got our M2. This does not have that. So, do they have a video on assembling this? The $9.99 price tag is because the project is getting ready to go to announce 1.6. Price drops for new versions. That makes sense. Do they have a video for assembling this? It looks quite a bit different. This is just for the LED lighting, I think. So there's two LEDs. Should be two LEDs. I see one LED. Uh-oh. Oh, gracious. Looks like they'll go like that. And then there's a tiny little JST. We'll cross that path when we get there, but this is definitely different than a standard. There's two spacers in here. These are completely different size. Bearings, this thing goes here. This will go through here. Does this bearing go inside there? Is that the deal? Oh, so there's no spindle, there's no pin bearings. There's two bearings on the very outside of this guy. That's different. Do we still need to grease that up? Like, where are the instructions for this? 1.5 has an upgrade path, but I suspect vendors want to evacuate existing inventory before the announcement. So that would be a pretty darn good deal to get. See if you like blowing chips all over your garage. I have a feeling I'll like it. Yeah, I think it is something that vendors want to do, get rid of the old stock, because what like LDO in the past has done to get rid of their old stock is just add the new parts to an existing kit, and then you have a whole bunch of extra parts in there, and people get confused about stuff. So it seems like the better alternative to dump as much stock as possible. We are down one of those tiny LEDs, and it was definitely in the kit, and it's definitely my fault that it is missing. I think they sell them, so if need be, I can order another one, but I remember kind of demonstrating how it fit in there when I was doing the unboxing. I'm annoyed with myself over that, because they're very custom LEDs that I don't have any of. I'm going to completely like rip apart my work desk later, try to find that, but we'll continue without it. See how far into this we can get. But yeah, this is pretty unique, I think. The instructions show you how to use the little two bearings in the standard BMG components, and this uses two bearings on the ends, which I don't think you would need any grease for, because they're not like the same standard needle bearings. That KB3D is offering the same price, but I'm sure that price includes this. You're sure that price includes the spindle? Probably does. The Matter Hackers definitely does. They say it actually has printed parts. The LDO generally has the Full Metal Jacket upgrade, I think, and I thought it said spindle as well. But yeah, the standard instructions for a stealth burner uses these two guys, and you need to lube up this shaft and bearings, but since it has a standard bearing, I don't think you need to lubricate anything. That, I guess, would be the main difference. What color idler do I want to use? Go with green. I don't have that many green parts. We need a 2x10, which strengthens this part. I'm not sure this is going to be strong enough to drive this. Definitely an interesting design choice. Beefing up a part with a screw. I guess we didn't need this. You can pop this guy. into our printed part, like so. These spacers have to go on like the outsides, I would assume. Again, lack of documentation here is a little annoying. Oh, these are magnetic. I always had a hard time getting these to sit in here correctly. Yep. No. I might have to create a little bit of a fillet to help this get started. Although it does have a no. I can't get in there with this. Maybe I'll just put it on the shaft and try to press it in. So you need to put one side into the motor plate. Fysetc has a GitHub. This is their addendum. X-axis, go to video here. Electronics and wiring, go to video here. They don't have anything about their toolhead. Let me check the other versions. Or maybe just the base part. Like a bomb. So they do have some addendums. This is the main branch. Well, the default is this, so use the shaft for both bearings against it. Okay, that is a good idea. These spacers I worry about, like obviously they're meant to, one is very, very thin and one is a little bit thicker, and it probably matters, but they kind of fell off. So that worries me a little bit. I have a product page for this. Why am I? Where's caps on? Oh gosh, get out of here. Do they have a link to anything? product page. So yeah, they have all these like spacers and stuff, but I don't know where they go. It's like 4 different versions of this product. Can I tell from the pictures where they go? I cannot. Maybe they have a GitHub for that product. A repo. I mean, it's not anything that involves code, so I feel like they probably don't. We can refer to Steve's video. Spacers are used to move the gears in and out when assembling. Put the bearings in and then figure it out if the rubs are aligned. Okay. I will also bring up Steve's doing config there, so probably part 2. Are you telling me what they did in Steve's video? That's why there's a thin and a thick. It gives you 3 options for gear offset. Gotcha. Have you used this in a particular build yet? Did they just give us 3 bearings for... Oh, one of these is for the filament runout sensor. And it just happened to be in the bag. It's the same bearing. So that suggestion worked really well. Thank you. Oh. Shuttle. Use this color of the lever. Idler goes in like so. Maybe we'll do the black. M3x10s. We already have those out. Nope. Don't push the bearings in with anything flat that isn't flat, or else they will break. Good to know. These will just fall out. That's gonna require a ball in. Where are you located, Bill? Where is my ball in that size? Over here. Whoa. That hole not clear? The alignment's off. Here we go. California. Okay, that explains why you're up. That might have been 1/4 rotation slightly too tight there. I kind of like having a multi-tone mini stealth burner. 12:41. Yeah, it's a little bit later for me. Three by 25s. Are all of these 3 by 25s? If I would have done this step first, it probably would have clamped it down. Well, that's not good. I've got a layer delamination. That came well before this was fully tightened down. I'm gonna have to reprint this. Yeah, look at that. I used too long of screws. These are 30. Oh boy. I'm going to continue on with this broken part. And I will reprint this tonight and get it swapped in. Alrighty. Thanks for hopping in the stream. Thanks for chatting. Always a pleasure. Enjoy your scotch. Yeah, it was supposed to be 25s. It's interesting, I didn't torque it down whatsoever, and it just pops right through the backside and delaminated the part. Delaminated split. That was a silly mistake. I might have printed out two. I have to go and look in that bin of parts somewhere else. It kind of makes me think it's not worth it to continue if I'm going to be disassembling this completely. But I wanted to get through the toolhead today. I mean, there's still quite a few steps to the toolhead, so like doing all of this seems kind of silly. So I think I'm going to follow Bill's lead and call it, get this reprinted tonight. And since I think Steve is not going to be streaming, maybe I'll pick up and stream tomorrow afternoon. There might be some people streaming for Smurf on Sunday, but I haven't really seen much popping up. So yeah, that's going to be the plan. This is what happens when you kind of do stuff late at night and you're paying attention to the stream and chatting. And I just grabbed a screw that was 5mm too long and destroyed this part. So don't do that. Do as I say and not as I do. But thank you to everybody who tuned in for today. Didn't get quite as much progress done as I had hoped. Kind of ran around in circles and spun my wheels a little bit on the belting part of it, and then had the technical difficulty with the stream, which I was hoping it was going to be, you know, pretty rock solid today. But you know, you run into setbacks. Hopefully people can learn from my mistakes and not repeat them. But thanks to everybody who hopped into the stream. The Shrimp Father, Renovic, Bill, lots of folks in here. Dom, I'm not sure if you're still in here. But yeah, I will send out a notification when I am streaming next, and we will get started back on this. I'm gonna go get this. It might still be, the G code might still be on there, but I did have this nice kind of multicolor print with 3 different colors, so that's gonna take a little while to set back up. But yeah, thank you. I will send out a notification when I'm streaming next, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.